Is there anything the matter with your throat?
$15 for an old stick?
Well, that's a very rare piece. It shows the wolf and the pentagram, the sign of the werewolf.
Werewolf? What's that?
Oh, that's a human being who at certain times of the year changes into a wolf.
You mean runs around on all fours and bites and snaps and bays at the moon?
Oh, even worse than that sometimes.
You can't tell me that's a dog.
You are quite right. It isn't a dog. That's just a legend, though, isn't it?
Yes, but like most legends, it must have some basis in fact. There's probably an ancient explanation of the dual personality in each of us. How does it go? Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright.
Larry Talbot, good guy in the wrong place at the wrong time. Lon Chaney did such a great job because he was so passionate about the role. I mean, he took what could have just been a hairy monster and made you feel for him. On the one hand, you're thinking, they got to kill this guy. On the other hand, you're saying, oh, when they do, I'm going to be really sad. There's something that you can relate to them somehow. They're in some ways sympathetic.
See that scar? That's where I was bitten by a wolf. Only it wasn't a real wolf, it was a man, a werewolf. I killed him. Now I change into a wolf at night when the moon is full.
The werewolf is a really great character. I think most people think, oh, he's a guy turns into a werewolf and kills people, and I suddenly realize, oh, the werewolf is more like a drug addict or an alcoholic where, you know, during the day he's just fine. He could be your brother, your uncle, your dad. He's really a good guy, but at night his demons come out. The thing about these monsters is that they're really just people with really bad problems.
I killed Bela. I killed Richardson. If I stay around here much longer, you can't tell who's going to be next.
The werewolf tradition is the animal or lower half of human nature. The predator, the dark side, what Jung calls the shadow. And that's the animal nature that we try to control. It's the nature of the beast within.
The big thing with the werewolf, we changed who he was and his character a little bit.
Ready, and action!
The hook of any character is always their journey, the arc. I was told that I would get to sort of, you know, make that transition between this sort of, you know, young prince into this, you know, great big huge 10-ton scary werewolf. It was great fun. I thought, excellent.
Run! Like this, and then one hand, then grab your face and just sort of rip your face off and rip your body and ripping it.
We've seen so many times guys growing hair turning into wolves. I said, we can't do that. The growing hair thing, no matter which way you do it, stop motion or CG, it's just been done to death. And so we came up with our own way. We thought, oh, well, what if the man starts ripping his skin off and ripping his face right off, and underneath him is growing this werewolf. And then when he needs to turn back, he tears himself apart again, because that's what the guy's doing inside, really. He's tearing himself apart.
The way they pitched it was fascinating, the way in which this creature apparently comes from within, which was, and I knew exactly, I thought, oh, great, with that I can run and fly with that.
Will Kemp came in, it's when we were casting in London, and he came in kind of off the street, and he just blew us away. He was like, his performance was great, and on top of that, when we asked him to turn into a werewolf, he was contorting all over the place.
Listen to me, I know the secret.
It wasn't until later we found out that he's a ballet dancer. He's done Swan Lake. He's done, I was like, oh, that makes sense now.
When you throw that and spin around, do your whole thing, back into the wall, bam, action.
Whenever you try to reinvent something so well known, you always try to, at the same time, give it justice and learn as much as you can about when it was created and why, but also to make it relevant for this particular time.
If you love those characters, you're going to love them in Van Helsing, I'm telling you right now, but if you love that sort of stuff, if you love the old original Universal horror monster movies, this movie's just going to like blow your socks off.
I know a man who has the power to help you.
No one can help me.
Think of it, the brain of a dead man, waiting to live again in a body I made with my own hands. With my own hands. It's alive!
I love the original Frankenstein. What I love most about it is actually the atmosphere and the production design. It just has this great gothic feel.
It's a perfectly good brain, Doctor. Well, you ought to know. It came from your own laboratory. The brain that was stolen from my laboratory was a criminal brain.
There's something really warm about the movie. I know it's a monster movie and it's scary and it's gothic, but there's something really wondrous about the atmosphere. People now think it's just Boris Karloff stabbing around, going,
What?
I think most people think that Frankenstein is just an evil monster, but if you watch the original movie, he's like the Elephant Man. He's just so hideous on the outside, but maybe he's got something more going on on the inside. He can't help himself. And I thought, oh, this is a really great character.
No!
He doesn't mean to kill this little girl. You feel sorry not only for the little girl, you feel sorry for him because you know it's kind of all over. Frankenstein has to be scary, and he has to be a monstrous. But I felt like in the original movie, you have to feel sympathy for him. And that's a fine line because you don't want to get sappy. And Frankenstein, he's angry. And he's willing to kill. And people are trying to kill him. And so he's got all this baggage.
The monster is, like any of us, really looking for love and acceptance. And it's sort of a tragic tale of what can happen when a human being or a monster doesn't get that. You end up pulling for him in a way.
Friend. Good. Friend! Good!
I think Boris Karloff wasn't just one of the great horror actors, he was just a great actor because he took what could have just been a horror monster creature and made him very sympathetic. And he created something that people hadn't seen before.
When most people talk about Frankenstein now, they don't think, oh, that 1818 novel by Mary Shelley. They think, oh, Boris Karloff in the most famous monster character makeup ever created. Because, you know, we're far enough along the series of films now for them to have their own iconic history.
You're crazy! Crazy, am I? We'll see whether I'm crazy or not.
When I watched the original, you know, everybody thinks they know it's alive, it's alive, it's alive. And I watched it thinking, oh, it's going to be melodramatic and silly. And it is melodramatic, but it's rather magnificent, actually. It's the central piece of the original movie.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
It says, in the name of God, now I know what it feels like to be God. And these lines were so inflammatory that they were actually cut in subsequent releases of the film in 1937. When I do the line, I'm not trying to sort of copy him, but I hope that my performance has a flavour of the size and grandeur of the original.
Scene 2, take 1, A camera, mark.
And action!
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
I saw The Bride of Frankenstein because that's so great. That's also a terrific movie, and some people say it's better than the original. And because they were so well done, the people who made them loved them. Like, the one thing I can tell you about Van Helsing, anybody who sees Van Helsing is going to know that they're going to sit there and they're going to go, whoever made this thing loves this thing. We start our movie with the end of the original Frankenstein movie, in a sense, and then move on from there. Frankenstein is such an icon. He has to look like that icon to a certain extent. I said he had to have a flat head, he had to have bolts on his neck, and he had to have the Doc Martens on his feet. And I said, other than that, we were really going to play with it a little bit. My attitude is, well, with my movie, I didn't want to go back and try to create the same thing. I have to create a completely different character. And in fact, I went back to the books more. We got Shooter Hensley, and Shooter came in and just knocked it out of the ballpark.
You grab the tiller, you shout an order, you stand up to the mountain of order, and if you are opposed, you shoot them, the first comer.
Deep down, there is some sexy something about it, and I'm so glad that I could bring that out.
By exposing me, you have condemned me and all of humanity!
Frankenstein breaks your heart in this film. It really is another view on the character, and it's an extraordinary job done by Shooter. The moment Steve said he cast him, I thought, who else could play this role, you know?
Monster! Who is the monster here?
Of course, he's such a brilliant guy, off camera as well.
We belong dead.
You watch Van Helsing and you realize how much we love these old movies. I do my research because I love reading this stuff and I love watching these movies, but I always find bits and pieces that I think, oh, I love that moment, I've got to use that. People are going to go, I remember, because they know what Frankenstein looks like in silhouette.
I have done nothing wrong!
It's a high wire act. You're trying to scare people one moment, make them laugh the next. I love the whole mixed bag. We love this stuff.
Castle Dracula?
Yes, that's where I'm going.
We people of the mountains believe at the castle there are vampires. Dracula and his wives, they take the form of wolves and bats. They leave their coffins at night and they feed on the blood of the living.
I bid you welcome.
Renfield, I think it is, walks into Dracula's foyer or whatever. It's magnificent. It's this fantastic staircase. And I just remember back then, those movies, they're pretty big for what they were. And they really came across, that's what I always thought, they came across as very exotic.
It's just a scratch.
Done well, people cannot get enough of Dracula. Probably seen him only in about a half a dozen movies. I think he's been in 150 movies or 57.
Van Helsing, a most distinguished scientist.
Their relationship is as enemies on one level, but also on another level, there's this layers of history.
Dracula and Van Helsing have become part of the kind of mythological fabric of our sort of consciousness.
Now that you have learned what you have learned, it would be well for you to return to your own country.
I prefer to remain and protect those whom you would destroy.
You are too late. My blood now flows through her veins.
Bela Lugosi, I mean, his performance was very iconic. It's like, and the look of him was very iconic, and I love that. And he had this kind of crazed, very sedate sex appeal that was very interesting.
Steve always likes to say there are no monsters in this picture, there's just people with some really bad problems.
It's all about love. He's just trying to find love, and he can't feel it. He's a guy who gets to live forever, but he has no soul. He's hollow. He feels nothing. He gets to live forever, but he doesn't get to feel anything.
To die, to be really dead, that must be glorious.
I am Count Władysław Dracula.
Born 1432.
Murdered 1462.
Like, okay, I love the idea of this character. How do I make him my own?
Usually, when I approach, I can almost dance to the beat.
I did my research. I would watch all these movies over and over again, think about him, and I'd say, you know, Dracula, we can't see his face in a mirror, But why? No one's ever asked why, and no one's answered the question. I'm going to do that.
There's that bat again.
And I thought, well, you know, he turns into a bat, but I'm not afraid of bats. I thought, but what if my bat had a 15-foot wingspan? That'd be different.
As you're doing this thing with her, you could lean in a little bit closer to her. I just think you could get a little bit, and then do this. Then your head kind of comes back as your fangs come out. You know, so, yeah, there you go.
He was a man, a kind of great man at one stage, a warrior. Sort of elements of that remain.
She's got like a pompous rock star, but in a really good way.
Richard has no fear. He's not cocky at all, but he's such a good actor. He really had no fear, and he took it, and the proof is in the pudding. He did a great job as Dracula.
Why can't they just leave us alone? We never kill more than our fill, or less than our share. And they say the same?
3, 2, 1, go.
I wanted to use every part of every myth we've ever heard about or used. Dracula has brides. He has 3 brides. And I thought, oh, that's really cool, and we got to do really cool stuff with them.
For one who has not lived even a single lifetime, you are a wise man, Van Helsing.
Most people never heard the name Van Helsing. Peter Cushing's played him, Anthony Hopkins played him, loads of people have played him. But I thought, oh, well, what if I caught him at the beginning of his career, if you will? Made him younger, hipper, different.
Some say you're a holy man. Others say you're a murderer. Which is it?
It's a bit of both.
It's what he's meant to do. It's what he's born to do. He doesn't know why.
And action!
There's this calm that comes over you. And fear doesn't come into consideration.
I'm going to take the little bits that I know of him and his smarts and his wit and some of the props or whatever, because there are only so many ways you can kill a vampire or a werewolf, but then I want to run with it.
Whatever that dark feeling is that you have, that you put a face to, whether it's Dracula or whatever it is, it's really powerful, and I think it works on everybody.
People are drawn to dark things because they're kind of mysterious, because it's otherworldly, because you don't understand it.
We've taken our love of those movies and we've done things that they couldn't do back then. And I think we've come up with a really great story and great characters, and I got real lucky and got great actors in every role. You watch Van Helsing and you realize how much we love these old movies.
What was in there? A gentleman with a stake driven right through his heart. Oh, do you know anything about this? Yes, I did it. Who is he in there? His name was Count Dracula. How long has he been dead? About 500 years.